Hi everyone. I wanted to go over in this presentation just some more specific caregiver characteristics that are important for caregivers to possess. In the discussion board, I know you all had written your own opinions on some characteristics of caregivers. However, I wanted to go over just some general ones that pretty much all caregivers should possess. So 7 general characteristics that are important for caregivers are empathy and nurturing, decision-making skills, patience, safety and health consciousness, communication skills, ability to handle stress, and understanding child development stages. With empathy and nurturing, the caregiver has to be able to put themselves in the position of another, or put themselves into the position of a child, and to understand how the child is feeling. So when a child, and let's say an infant, is crying or upset, what can it be that is making them uncomfortable, or what's making them upset? Caregivers should obviously give some care and protection and show love, support, concern, and encouragement to those that they are watching. Caregivers must also have good decision-making skills. Caregivers do have to evaluate situations and take the best course of action, and a lot of times this is on the spot because when a child does something wrong or if there's some type of emergency, they have to be able to act quickly and on the spot. So the steps to do that is to identify the problem, list various solutions, evaluate each solution, and choose the best solution. So for instance, and I'm going to use the Real Care babies as an example, when the baby is crying, you kind of have to decide what is it that you need to do in order to make the baby stop crying. So first we have to identify the problem, the baby is crying. The solutions, the baby either needs to be fed, changed, rocked, or it needs to be burped. So, and then you're going to evaluate those solutions afterwards. Evaluating each of these solutions can be, trial and error and testing all of them. It could be simple as smelling the baby's diaper if it's a real live baby, or looking at their facial expressions, because if the baby is making kind of a sucking motion with their mouth, they may be hungry as well. And then from there, you choose the best solution. Caregivers must also possess patience. Patience is definitely huge. So a caregiver has to endure waiting or delay without becoming annoyed or upset, and to make sure that they can stay calm when they are faced with difficulties or challenges. So I think patience really comes into play when babies are crying, and a caregiver really has to be very calm and not get so annoyed or upset. Because we'll talk about this a little bit later, but when parents or caregivers don't have patience, a lot of times this can result in abuse, shaken baby syndrome, or something that they do that would have some negative consequences. Next, caregivers should be safety and health conscious. They have to be alert to safety hazards, making sure that, whether in a home or daycare, that their, kids are not sticking their fingers in electrical outlets, that they're not by a hot stove, that they don't have any toys that could potentially be choking hazards. Obviously have no dangerous activities. Most employers or even parents will require caregivers to be basic first aid and CPR certified. And caregivers also have to identify and respond to a medical emergency. So for instance, if a child is allergic to something or they have some pre-existing medical condition, they have to be able to understand when the child, what the child should and shouldn't have, how to identify when they're in a medical emergency, and how to respond, medications to give, and all of that. Next is communication skills. Communication skills are huge because it does help guide the actions of children in a positive manner. One thing with communicating with children that you kind of want to keep in mind is that you want to relay that you don't dislike the child, but you dislike their behavior and you want them to change their behavior. So caregivers should be able to give positive feedback and corrective feedback. You want to try to avoid saying no or don't, but actually be direct and tell them what you want them to do. Some examples would be saying, I like how you put your toys away after you played with them. Or, please draw on your own paper versus don't draw on his paper. So there's always a positive spin that you can put on communicating to children so you can get a more desired outcome. Some basic guidelines with communication is one, to be respectful, model those good behaviors, say please and thank you even to little kids, because that will rub off on them and they'll in turn say please and thank you and know that's something that they should use regularly. You want to keep it simple. Whenever you are communicating with kids, keep it easy to understand. They're not going to understand long, drawn-out explanations of why you want them to do this or that, but just keep it simple and sweet. Next, you want to listen. So look at the child, make eye contact with them, get on their level. That way you're not towering over them, and respond to them appropriately. And then finally, just remain calm. Use a calm voice. If you think that you're going to not communicate in the best manner or maybe yell at them, take a minute to yourself and then go back and communicate to the child calmly. Next is having the ability to handle stress. When a child misbehaves, there are 3 courses of action that a caregiver should take. One, they could ignore it. So remember, with ignoring it, that is completely fine, because a lot of times when kids are misbehaving, it is because they want your attention. And if you kind of acknowledge that bad behavior, they're going to keep doing that bad behavior in order to get your attention, which is not at all what you want. Next, corrective feedback, which I mentioned in the last slide, but tell them what you want them to do. Again, be direct, be very simple, and hopefully you will get the child to do what you would like them to. And then the other course of action you can take is to physically take control of the situation. Only do this if a child is doing something that is a threat to themselves or to others. So if they are being physically violent, you might have to physically remove them from a situation, or if they're, doing something that may harm themselves, you might have to physically step in to actually take control. Finally, you have to be able to understand the child development stages. This is something that we'll kind of go over throughout the rest of the semester, so you kind of understand some big milestones and some things to look out for in each developmental stage, but you have to be able to know what's age appropriate and developmentally appropriate at each age group. As we know, every child goes through standard stages of development: infancy, toddlers, preschoolers, etc. And kids may not be at the same developmental stages as their peers, even if they are the same ages. So remember that kids develop develop through the same stages. However, they may develop at different paces. So again, if you know the whole range of the child development stages, it'll make it a lot easier for you to kind of understand and pinpoint where exactly the kid is and how to take care of them and respond to them appropriately. Understanding the stages of development and abilities of children in your care will really help you, again, know what they are capable of doing, not capable of doing, and kind of to assess what level they are at so you can help them with skills in the future. The next task that you have is that you are going to go into Google Classroom to complete a caregiver scenarios assignment. There are a series of scenarios. I believe there's 5 scenarios. You're going to analyze the scenarios and then respond to the questions in the Google Doc that I have posted. Please make sure that when you go to Google Classroom and you complete this assignment, to turn it in properly, and that way I can see all of your great responses. I will also eventually post the results of the caregiver assessment, just so as a class period you can kind of see where everybody ranks and what kind of experience everybody has with caring for children.